Hello, hello, and welcome to a Gran Turismo thing. And I kind of laugh saying that because if you're familiar with my first channel, you'll know I already had a Gran Turismo thing. It didn't do especially well, but that's okay. I am still pretty happy with that video. But this is a different Gran Turismo thing. So it is on one of the same tracks that I covered. This is Gran Turismo 2 rather than Gran Turismo 1. Because shortly before I made that Gran Turismo video, I had just finished a replaying of Gran Turismo 1, which I hadn't done since the 90s, probably. It's a really cool game, and I wish the RPG elements were carried forward a bit more than they have been. Even Gran Turismo 7 has kind of eschewed most of them, unfortunately. So it has a thriving online scene, and I suppose it's their prerogative to focus on that if they want to. But having finished Gran Turismo 1, ooh, I gave that a lot of beans. Held it though. Having finished Gran Turismo 1, I decided to move on to Gran Turismo 2. So I'm in a significantly slower car. Ooh, I missed my braking point there. I'm in a significantly slower car than I was in the GT1 video. And I'm just kind of getting a feel for it. I want to nail this track. Which this is for the German National. Just last night I got my B license so I can partake in the first round of the Nationals. Which, unfortunately, doesn't actually pay that incredibly well, but what can you do, I guess? I'm just getting a feel for the car around this track, and the more I play this, the more I drive this track, rather, the more I realize how much of an homage to the Nordschleife it really is. A little bit late on my turn in there. Obviously the layout is very different. It doesn't have the carousel. Ooh. Again, missed my braking point a bit there. I'll need to work on that. But I really realized how many of these corners feel very similar to corners I've seen on the Nordschleife, which, to be clear, I don't actually know the Nordschleife. I cannot drive it by sight. At least not at any speed. But I've watched a lot of other people drive it. It's real life footage and sim footage. So although I don't know the track myself, I would never make that claim. Oh, that was better. I wouldn't make the claim that I know the Nordschleife, but I recognize a lot of similar contours. That was a touch too early. My breaking point there. So a little after the 100-meter board I'll be aiming for. And that's what this is. This is me just getting good at this track again. Because it has been basically since that Gran Turismo video that I have driven this. It's been since that video that I've driven this, jeez. Can't talk. And this is a really fun track. So if you don't mind me gushing about this track a little bit, once we start this next lap, I'll talk us through it because it's a really cool track. Alright, we're back onto the straight. We want to be right up against the right side. We'll brake a little bit after this 100-meter board. Down to second gear. Hit the apex and carry your speed out. Just kind of hit our apexes here. A little bit of braking since there's a crest there. Big braking point here, down into second. Carry your momentum off to the left side. Up into third. Very small lift here. Back on the gas. That can catch you a little bit. Brakes. Ooh, definitely put on too much brakes there. I can take that in third. But you want to drag that apex right onto those bricks and carry momentum as much as you can onto this straight. I'll talk about that again once we get there on the next lap, because that section is really critical. Here, on the brakes a bit, down into third to make this turn. Let yourself go fairly wide. That was maybe a little bit too much. You can cut that corner very aggressively. Now I lift at the curb, start turning. We went a little wide of the apex, but once you pass that apex, back on the gas and you can carry the momentum all the way to the right edge of the track. Now that's what this is. This is me just trying to really nail this track. I took my apex way too early there. For lap time, I think I'd like to get under a 129, so into the 128s. Go brake down to second, hold on to a lot of that speed. A tap of brakes and a bit of a lift. We're able to carry our momentum out. And now we can hold the gas all the way, little tiny lifts just to tuck the car. A little bit too close to the apex there. But we are trying to thread that needle. Here, another touch of the brakes to bring us down a bit. And a lift and turn, back on the gas, and that curb catches us. So Gran Turismo, this is Gran Turismo 2, but Gran Turismo 1 came out in, I believe it was, was it 96 or 97? We're gonna check. It was 1997, and the sequel was 1999. And that's the one that we're playing right now, is the sequel. Ooh. That was a weird shift. I did not make that input. So this was 1999, and I'm not going to say it's an accurate sim by today's standards, but back in 1999, this was actually a really good sim. So all of the vehicle dynamics are there. They're all in this. Ooh, here we go. You can hold so much momentum through that if you're right on the limit. And that's what we're doing. So even though it's, archaic by today's standards and quite inaccurate, it still has the same concepts of sim racing today. You still want to balance the car right on that limit. The nice thing about Gran Turismo being a little inaccurate is that it's inaccurate in a way where it's a bit more forgiving. So it feels like driving. But it's not quite as demanding as iRacing or honestly even like Forza Motorsport, the new one. Oh, I slowed down a little bit too much. But the physics of the early Gran Turismo games, that's 1 and 2, at least 1 and 2. I haven't played 3 and 4 recently with a kind of sim mindset, but I assume they're fairly similar. But the neat thing about the PS1 Gran Turismos is that all of the physics of a modern sim are there. They're just wrong, but they all behave more or less how you would expect. They're just like more or less sensitive than they should be in real life. And it leads to a system where it's like internally consistent. You can learn how to go fast in Gran Turismo's 1 and 2. And it's using actual driving skills. It feels a lot like sort of a what if. What if the laws of physics were just slightly different? And that's what playing Gran Turismo feels like. It feels like exploring a hypothetical reality where the physics just behave a little bit differently. Oh, that felt pretty good. There was a lot of scrubbing, but I held a good bit of speed through there. It was pretty much full throttle the whole time. For a bit of brake. And now this whole stretch is on the throttle downhill. Bit of a lift and turn, back on the gas, catch ourselves, and away we go. We held a lot of good speed through there too. And we did beat my time target. I wonder though if I can get that even better. We're driving, by the way, an RX-7, a Mazda RX-7, 1990 RX-7. And I believe it's stock. I don't think I put any upgrades in it. Not yet, anyway. It has 217 horsepower, if I remember right. It was 207, something like that. Which is just under the limit for the German national championship. I believe 217 is a stock RX-7. You can always check on your copy of Gran Turismo 2 at home, of course. Do you think there's anyone that's like playing Gran Turismo alongside of this video right now? I kind of hope so. Ooh, that was too much. Slowed down too much there. Most people probably think that racing is... Ooh. I hit the inside there. It's a tricky corner to keep the throttle down on. A lot of people probably think racing is really high energy, that it's very intense, and it is. It definitely is, but it's a mental game in a lot of ways. Ooh, a little bit too much gas. I was a little early on the throttle there. But when you're lapping, once you've settled into the race, when you're not side by side with someone, because you don't spend most of the race right next to other drivers. The field kind of spreads out throughout. So when you're just lapping, trying to build those gaps or shrink those gaps, depending, both, I guess, it's a little bit zen. Because you're there, you're zoned in, and you're hitting your marks. That's what it's about. It's about focus and precision to really get a good lap time. You want to be as smooth as possible. It's not action movie shifting, though you do want to shift quickly. But it's not action movie shifting. Oh no, why did I put on the brakes? Wasn't thinking. See, I lost focus for a moment. And that's the thing with racing. That was too fast, but only a little bit. I held it. Okay, I'll take it. I think I could take a later apex in that corner. And that too, you're always looking every lap you take. You're looking for, how do I go a little bit faster? How do I carry a little more momentum? How do I do it even smoother? Because that's really the thing. When you're really going fast, it almost doesn't feel like it. When you're really, really locked in and on a blistering lap, the car almost feels like it's driving itself. And that's that being on the limit. That's slipping into neutral steer. When the car is perfectly balanced in the corner, carrying as much speed as it possibly can. I waited a little bit later, but I was able to get really solidly on the throttle there. I think that was better. I don't actually know what my sector times are. I haven't been paying attention. That was not very good. That big sweeper did not play out very well for me. Lift and turn, back on the throttle. That was alright. Going reasonably quickish. I probably have too much tire noise. I don't actually know how much tire noise is bad. There isn't a good progression of the noise. So a lot of sims, since there's a lot of information that you can't feel in a sim, even with a full motion rig. There's a lot of information that you just can't get about how the car is behaving. And what a lot of sims will do is use tire noise to indicate the state of grip. Which isn't totally, going way wide there, which isn't totally unfounded in reality. But they play it up a little bit. They exaggerate it to make the car more drivable. But what they'll do is they'll use multiple different tire squealing sounds and they'll progress through them. So you'll get sounds where the tire is scrubbing rather than sliding, and that's okay. A little bit of scrub is expected. I kind of missed my braking point there. But it really seems like Gran Turismo, probably because of RAM limitations. I think there were, I don't know, like maybe 8 megabytes of RAM, something like that. But because of RAM limitations, they couldn't have tons of sound samples, tons of audio samples loaded and ready to go. So I think they tried to use volume, but the progression of audio is very quick. Oh, why did I use the brakes? What am I doing? I don't know where that muscle memory came from all of a sudden, but let's break it. Actually, let's do a kind of serious lap. I didn't love that corner, but we're gonna stick with it. Way too much sliding. Could have held more speed there, but it wasn't terrible. It's a little bit over-eager on the throttle there. Got on it too early. I turned a touch too aggressively there. But, you know, that wasn't embarrassing. That felt a little bit better. The first corner I'm still not 100% on. But I'm getting some pretty big using all the track energy from the rest of this lap so far. That's nice. By the way, for those new to racing, who maybe don't know the basics, the foundational knowledge, the core of what I'm doing is called going off the track. No, the core of what I'm doing is called in and out. Out in out. It's a racing line. And the racing line starts on the outside of the corner, which is here. Then it arcs to the inside and continues back to the outside. So something you might expect in a race is that going the shortest distance would be the fastest. And you're not wrong, taking the inside of a corner is faster than taking the outside. But it's not the fastest way around a corner. The fastest way around a corner is the largest arc. Because it's not about minimizing your distance, it's about maximizing your minimum speed through a corner. So the less you need to turn the vehicle, the less you need to slow down. And that's really the trick of racing, is figuring out how to slow down as little as possible. Which is why racing is in how you use the brakes. That's really the skill of going fast around a track. So I'm going to try pushing this braking point a little later. That could have been worse. I was also trying to more consciously trail brake in that corner, which did not actually seem to slow me down very much. I am playing with an Xbox 360 controller. This is obviously via emulator. The PS1 was not this resolution. But I'm playing via emulator with not a 360 controller, it's an Xbox One controller. And I am using the triggers for gas and brake like a modern racing game would. So I do have full analog control, but it doesn't seem quite linear. It feels a little bit weird because it is tuned for the right joystick to be your throttle and brake. Yeah, racing games used to use that as a standard, kind of. It was pressing up was gas, and then back was brake, so you had full analog control. But it's definitely a little bit unusual to the modern palate, to the modern gamer. It feels a little weird to use, a little bit imprecise, I guess. It's not my style. I never used it back in the day. But the triggers? Yeah, the triggers feel right. But in this game specifically, because it was tuned for the joystick, I believe it's not a linear response in the triggers. So figuring out how to trail brake is a little bit weird. And also how much of a lift is a partial lift is a little strange, but it's all good. I should probably have some kind of overlay, shouldn't I? Hey, if I do this again, I'll see about getting an overlay working. That shouldn't be too hard. I've done more complicated things in OBS before. I feel like trying to trail brake just makes me brake a lot less. Like it does grip up in the front. That is being simulated, but like I feel like I'm losing way more braking performance than you actually do lose in a modern sim. So that would be one of those differences, one of those things that you need to get used to with Gran Turismo 1 and 2. I can put on the brakes a little bit earlier for that and probably carry a ton more speed through here. We will try that on the next lap. That last corner is really fun. I really enjoy a good lift-only corner. See, like my tires were going crazy there, but I did not feel like I was sliding. It's a little bit hard to read the car. Oh no. That was bad. I almost lost it there. I clipped the inside there. Okay, a little bit earlier so I can hold this tighter. think that was faster. A little bit wide on the exit. That was mostly me not turning though. That's on me. Ooh. That felt better. So at least this car, which is not particularly powerful, but at least this car does feel a little bit more stable than Gran Turismo 1 did, where the back kind of always wanted to come out from under you when you were braking on corner entry. But it still carries through the same thing of, honestly, a lift basically being the equivalent, like a full 100% lift basically being the equivalent of a really light trail brake. That was a good final corner. I think that was a pretty decent lap. That felt alright. Ooh, new fastest, let's go. Okay, so I'm like... Alright, I think I see what I'm doing in the first corner. I'm not sure how to explain what I'm doing in that first corner, but I know what I'm doing. And that's one of the other neat things about racing. That old Gran Turismo 1 video included track guides for 4 or 5 tracks. I think 5 tracks, and this is one of them. And it forced me to really break down, where are my braking points? Why am I doing this or that thing? What is the advantage there? But when I'm actually driving, that's not quite what's happening. I'm looking for specific braking points, but it's so by feel that it's hard to explain to someone else exactly what they should be looking for, what they should be using for braking points. And maybe it's not necessary to be that accurate, because every car is different, every driver is a little different. I can give you a starting point, but ultimately, you're gonna have to feel it out yourself. Oh no. Little lift? Okay. We didn't hit the wall at least. We lost some speed in there. We went very wide of the final apex. But we mostly held it. I do really like that last corner. That feels so good. Oh, this lap is feeling spicy. I could have opened that up a little bit more. That's okay. Oh, that was good. That was a good lap. What is that going to come in at? Yeah. Oh, we are beating my targets really pretty solidly. What did we do? Bring it down by like 2 seconds? Oh, I wanted to be under 29. So is that like a second and a quarter? It's not half bad. Ooh. Over rotated a little bit there. Now that was really good through that stretch there. Carried the car all the way to the right edge of the track. Which, by the way, that's what's meant by use all of the track. It's not just swing all the way to the edge because you were told to use all the track. No, it's carry enough momentum that you are forced to use all of the track. Because if you don't, you will go off. Something that probably isn't immediately obvious to people who don't get into the technicals of racing is that, ate a little bit of grass there, is that once a driver enters the braking zone, once they apply the brakes, they've more or less subscribed to an arc through the corner, to an optimal arc through the corner. You can always slow down and tighten it, but you're trying to bring the car to a speed that will carry it all the way, way too wide, too much speed, that will carry it all the way to that outside edge of the track. Balanced, if you will. A little bit of grass there, but not terrible. Kinda worked. What if you'll allow me to gush for just a moment? Would you look at this game? Like, ignore that it's very low poly, because it is. and the texture resolution is quite low. But just unfocus your eyes, and it's kind of good looking. The use of color is really good, the proportions are nice. It's very easy to read the track. And something that has really stood out to me in my more analytical adulthood of gaming is all of the trackside detail. They had a really limited polygon budget, and obviously texture resolution budget, both in terms of the RAM available, the memory available, and just the graphics processing power. And yet they were able to cover the track in a fair bit of detail. And the thing I really appreciate about that is how this game would be basically unplayable without that track detail. All of the signs showing the distance to the corner entry, all of the advertisement boards everywhere, the lines on the track, there's little posts and lamp posts on some tracks. The positioning of grandstands, and there's little off to the left, there's another one to the right. Those small dirt roads leading off the course. All of those little details help to cement the track, but they also serve to give breaking points. You could make this course just a ribbon floating in a void, and it would drive exactly the same. But it would be so much more difficult to drive without these references. And honestly, I do think this game looks good. Its use of color especially stands out. This is such a gorgeous deep forest at sunset. I find this game very pleasing to the eye. And sure, maybe I'm just old and I grew up with it, but I'm not blind to the issues. I mean, I have PGXP turned on, which is, that PS1, that polygon wiggle. Well, there's actually two things that are happening. So there's polygon wiggle, which is because the positions of polygons essentially get rounded because the PS1 can't do floating point math fast enough for stable graphics anyway. There are ways that you can do floating point, obviously, on the CPU, but it's not performant enough for rendering. At least not rendering anything in mass for real-time use. But the other thing that happens is, I think it's pronounced affine texture warping, which is so the PS1, in order to get 3D working, did this thing where it would only scale when a polygon is being rendered. Let's roll back a little bit. When a polygon is being rendered, a textured polygon is being rendered, the computer figures out how how the texture is mapped, and then how to manipulate that part of the texture so that it fits over the rendered polygon. And it has to do 3D transforms to that texture in order to get it to display in the right place on screen, and with the correct perspective and all that. Well, the PS1 took a shortcut. It only does 2 of the 3 necessary texture warping functions. Like, it only warps the texture in 2 axes when there should be 3. And that produces a, like, very specifically PlayStation 1 texture warping, flickery kind of thing, in addition to the polygon warping, and I went horribly wide there. And affine texture warping is something that I have corrected here mostly. There's a little bit of weirdness because a lot of PS1 games, including Gran Turismo's 1 and 2, use a lot of subdivision of geometry. And that was, in large part, it actually reduces performance because they're taking these large, just enormous polygons and subdividing them into many, much smaller polygons, which is more taxing on the processor, more taxing on the system. Ooh, wow, I really messed that one up, huh? But because the polygons were so much smaller, and it was resolving the texture mapping for each of those polygons, having more smaller polygons resulted in more stable texture mapping. But now with emulation, we can fix the affine texture warping problem, and we can also fix the polygon wobble as well, which I don't know if there's a technical term for that, but the polygon wobble, you know what I'm talking about. We can fix both of those with modern emulation. But the underlying games that we're emulating are still doing those things. So you'll see, a couple meters in front of my car, there's this kind of line of weirdness where, like, the curbs are kind of distorted and the textures just get kind of weird. There's like a weird jerkiness there. That's actually an artifact of correcting a problem that the software is itself attempting to correct. But I find it less distracting overall, so I stick with it. Although you'll notice in the distance there's still kind of weirdness. Some texture not exactly poppin', though there's a lot of geometry poppin'. The render distance in PS1 games is not that good. It's long enough. It's long enough for sure. But a lot of that actually is a LOD system, which is still in use in games today, although Nanite would like to have that be otherwise. But what a LOD is a LOD stands for level of detail, and it's multiple versions of an asset at increasing levels of detail. And one of those levels of detail is extremely high poly, very high resolution textures. This is used for, like, close-ups. And you back out a little bit and it'll swap the model to something better for gameplay. It's a little bit lower res. There's some more kind of baked stuff. But it looks totally fine at the resolutions that it displays at. And then as you, like, back away from a rock, it'll become increasingly chunky. You know, like, an in a Bethesda game. When you are overlooking a vista and you zoom way out and you notice that the trees they're actually flat in the distance. That's a LOD. That's a level of detail where at a certain point it just becomes a billboard stuck into the ground. But it's very efficient. It's extremely performant to do that. And most of the time during gameplay, you can't tell. Emulating, vastly increasing the resolution. This is, I think, 6 times of the original resolution. Yeah. And widescreen. That's a widescreen hack that I have on. But displaying at these resolutions, the chunkiness of the LODs becomes much more apparent. The tracks are fairly stable, but in a little bit we'll load into a race, and I think you'll see what I mean. The cars, they become weird amorphous cubes pretty quickly. But honestly, on the PS1, on original hardware at original resolution, it was hard to tell. It was genuinely hard to tell that they were swapping in lower detail models. And LODs are still in common use today. Sometimes you can notice them, sometimes you can't. There's a couple different ways that developers will mask LOD transitions. Personally, I prefer a pop, if I'm being totally honest. I don't like the stippled dithering thing. I find that very distracting. Fades are honestly kind of the same. Just shamelessly pop it, because it's just one frame. You know? It's just one frame distance instead of spreading it out over like 10. Doesn't have a weird pattern in it. It looks very consistent. It's fine. It's a video game. I can deal with it. But I guess not everyone feels that way, huh? I mean, I'm also the weirdo saying that Gran Turismo 2 looks pretty. But I think it is. I think its art style really holds up. Which is impressive for a game that was going after realism, for sure. Games that go after realism tend to age worse than fantasy or very abstract games. But I think this does a pretty good job of it. Ooh, a little bit too many beans. A tad too many beans. Well, these tires are probably cooked. That's not a thing in test drive, but they would be in real life. You know what? Quick question, do I have an e-brake? What is it bound to? Nope, that... Does this do? Nope, that's looking backwards. I think I might not have it bound. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. That's not really a button you use in a race, is it? But I think it would be fun to finish this out by doing the race now. We should be fairly evenly matched. Like I mentioned earlier, we are just under the limit for this event. The horsepower limit for this event. So we should be relatively evenly matched with our competition, so this should be a fun one. Ah, and there's the LODs. You can see them, can't you? consistently get terrible starts. That is a nice color, that beetle. Please do not kill me. Thank you. Oh, I kind of missed my shift there. Oh, these guys are crowding me. Oh, hanging it around the outside. Let's go. Oh, I'm carrying so much more speed onto the straight. Let's go. Ooh. That corner was a little bit sketchier than I would have liked. We have a really healthy lead now, though. Dang. And then now we're up to the normal speed, so this corner makes a bit more sense to me. Kinda goofed it, though. Yeah, they gained on me. I did not take that corner very well. I will freely admit that. I don't know why I drove into the wall on the outside there. I don't think I did that at all during practice. But okay. They're hanging. They're keeping me honest. They are definitely keeping me honest. Now for the part I'm definitely faster at. Oh no, if I don't mess it up. That was sketchy. I almost feel like my tires are cold. I mean, it would be time for it to be cold, but I don't know that this game does that. At least outside of the endurance races. Anyway, that's first place. That's first place, and that's the racer in me trying to be like, wait, but I could have gone faster. I mean, the essence of racing, truly. I'm gonna let the replay play us out while I say just a little bit more, you know, hang out for a touch longer. And something that I really appreciate in Gran Turismo 2 coming from Gran Turismo 1 is the AI they're a little bit better, actually. They're still PS1 racing AI. But they jostle for position a little bit more. They're less following a line, and they feel a little bit more like they're racy. You know, they kind of make moves on each other. They seem to fight for the race. They also don't seem to ram into you quite as much. There was a little bit of contact in here, but it wasn't the same, like, really pushing the player off the line. So I hugely appreciate that change. That has sold me on Gran Turismo 2 over Gran Turismo 1, if nothing else, and there are plenty of other reasons to prefer Gran Turismo 2 over 1. But I just wanted to give a shout out to that upgrade, because I didn't recognize it at the time that this came out when I played it originally, and I really appreciate it now as a 30-something experiencing this game again with a much more mature perspective, which I've done with a few games now, and it's really cool experiencing these again, because you get that hit of nostalgia, but you can also experience it in a totally different way, in a much more sophisticated way. But I say that not snootily. Like, when I was a kid, it was cars go fast and that's fun, and oh, I can get sideways and do drifts, and like I enjoyed it, and it's a fun experience in that very casual, with that casual kind of mindset. It's a fun game. It's very approachable. I totally recommend Gran Turismo 1 and 2, even if you're not into racing, because they're that approachable. You can get your feet wet in racing in a kind of sim-like experience, or you can approach them very casually and just mess around in cars. But coming to it from a modern sim racing perspective, there's a lot that I've really come to love about Gran Turismo 1 and 2, in that they feel different from a modern sim, but still similar. It feels like driving, but I don't have to be a tryhard about it. It's a little bit... the edge, the limit is a little bit wider. And, you know, if I bump into someone, it doesn't ruin their race. There is that. That's nice as well. But that's the end of the race. We got first, as mentioned. I still could have gone a little bit further, but that's just the racer in me speaking. But I wanted to thank you for stopping by and lending me your ear for however long this has ended up being. And as always, have a great one.